Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge, day number 3. My name's Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and a big hello to everyone joining me live on Behance. If you are tuning in, definitely throw your name in the chat and let me know where you're streaming from. We've got Sam and Marissa and Jofian and Avardo and Santaji. If I mispronounce anyone's name, I apologize, but Santaji is ready, and Natalie and Paco's in the house, and Eric and Larson. I don't want to miss anyone's names. Julia, who's going to be streaming right after me. Melville, I can go on forever. Adriano, did I miss anyone? Jack, one of our amazing Adobe Live guests in the past. Ryan, Anna, Jonathan. I can just keep doing this. But hello, everyone. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Adriano's from sunny San Paulo, Brazil. Awesome. And Natalie is from Deltona, Florida. Sweet. Iran and Chicago. Awesome. Great to see everyone. So, what do we have planned for today? Well, let me hop over to my screen right over here. And this is the Behance Daily Creative Challenge landing page. Head on over to, let me zoom in here, behance.net/challenge/XD, and Tim will probably be posting the link in the chat in just a moment. But head on over there if you haven't yet. Hit the big blue register button at the top. That way you're notified when we do release new challenges every single day, Monday to Friday, somewhere around 8 o'clock Pacific time. They'll be posted here. They'll also be posted on Discord. And speaking of Discord, if I hop over here, this is Discord. We've got almost 32,000 designers registered for our Discord server, which is a lot of people. Right now, there are almost 1,000 people online. So if you're not there, head on over there. It's a good time. Introduce yourself. You can find out what's new in XD. You can get pro tips. You can ask questions, tips and tricks. You can just chat and talk about whatever. You could talk about neumorphism if you really wanted to. It's a big topic these days. I posted something on Twitter a few days ago, and there's a lot of mixed opinions on neumorphism, which is kind of the new skeuomorphism. Neumorphism, you get it? It's a weird thing, but it's there. It might make a return in some capacity. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Design is weird. So, back to the landing page. If you're brand new, every day you're going to receive a challenge. You're going to join us in our community chat, where you can also post the work that you're doing. And let me just hop over here just to kind of give an idea of what we're doing. Here's the current challenge channel, and there's just a ton of people posting in here. I can just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. And also on Behance, using the keyword XD Daily Challenge, you can post there as well if you are building out portfolio pieces and you want to put together a case study. And if you do want some inspiration, head over to Jack's channel. Jack is in the chat, and she puts together amazing case studies based on these creative challenges. So it's Jack Watson in the chat. Sorry, Jack, for calling you out. But hey, Anel, welcome, and Samuel, and Celine, and Lucy, and everyone else who's joining me. Julie from Montreal, sweet. All right, so what do we have going on today? Well, we started this week with repeat grids. We designed the donation experience for a buy a book, give a book experience, and then we went on to auto animate yesterday, and today we're going to be focusing on the drag trigger. And we're going to be designing an experience that allows users to donate to charities directly from their paychecks. Charities are always good, right? A lot of us maybe can't donate to charities, but some of us might be fortunate that we can. So it would be cool if there was a way that every single paycheck we can donate like 1% or 2% or a specific amount of our paychecks directly to charity of our choice. Would be kind of cool. Maybe that exists already, I don't know. But if not, we're going to create something like that today. So make sure to download the file, and we're going to hop over to Adobe XD, and we're going to get going. And of course, as always, if you have questions throughout this process, throw them in the chat. I will be paying attention as much as I can. But here is the challenge template for today. And Jofian says, "Oh, Jack, I noticed the Boop XD challenge. There's a Boop. I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm behind." Speaking of Boop. Hopefully that worked. I don't know if did that work. Yes, it did. Boop. All right, so we've got some inspiration over here. We've got some resources at the bottom, but we're just going to dive into things, and we're going to start laying out our artboards. If you've been with me over the last few days, you know I've been kind of on a kick and trend of these curvy lines and curvy, elements that kind of go around and house stuff. Stuff is a good word on your document. So we're going to start by doing that. I'm going to start by just changing the background color. I want a nice blue color. There's a lot, in finance, blue is a pretty nice color. Red is also nice, depending on the financial institution. But, blue, you can never go wrong with blue. It's a very pleasing color. So I'm going to just do something like this. Just make the whole background blue, but I only want to show some of that background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out a rectangle, starting from about, let's say here, down to the bottom. Now, in past days, I've rounded out both top corners, but we're gonna get a little bit more fancy today before we get into some of the prototyping. So I'm gonna go ahead and round out this corner here, about 62, and I'm doing that by holding down my Option key and just dragging, and someone saying blue for Behance, maybe. And I'm also gonna do this, right? I'm gonna drag this side out, but maybe I don't exactly want this style. Maybe I want something a little bit fancier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this shape, just like that. And now I've got my lovely lines. I'm going to simply drag this one up. And I can drag this down if I wanted to. I can drag that like that. And now all of a sudden, look at that. We've got kind of like a reverse curve going on. I don't know, some may like it, some may not. I think it's kind of fun. We're gonna run with it and see what happens. And I can always double click and just select all these lines, move them down a little bit if I wanted to, either using my mouse or my arrows. And there we go. So we've got this lovely little element. We may also want something to house a profile picture. So I'm gonna grab my ellipse tool, just draw one out just like this. I'm gonna make sure it kind of snaps to the middle right there, right? And maybe for the image, I'm gonna hop over to Finder, and I'm gonna grab an image of me. Why not, right? I'm gonna pop that into place, and now this is kind of personalized. It's now mine. Now maybe below it, I might wanna grab my text and just type out my name, which I can't see, but now I can see it. There we go. That looks pretty good. I am gonna go with the Poppins typeface. It's a pretty good typeface. I've been using it quite a bit lately, and I might want to maybe bold this out a touch. There we go. So Jofian is asking, I notice if I double click on a rectangle, it will become kind of like a path. Is there a way to turn it back to a rectangle? There isn't. So when you do convert something into a path, it's going to stay as a path. So keep that in mind if you are going to be making, tweaks like this. But yeah, once you convert a shape into a path, that's the way it is, at least for now. Maybe in the future we'll be able to figure out a way to do that. But I'm going to duplicate this, and maybe I might want to type out, you just got paid. And this will be the area that kind of shows your paycheck. Maybe I'll do an exclamation mark at the end. I'm gonna drop this to, let's say, regular, possibly. I definitely wanna make this a little bit smaller, not too small. And then maybe I'll just drop the opacity a little bit so it kind of separates from that text at the top. There we go, beautiful. Now, right below it, we might want the actual amount. And I don't know, I'm just gonna make up an amount. I definitely do not get paid this every paycheck. That would be really nice. But I'm gonna go for something like that. Maybe I will drop the weight to light. Is that too? That's not too bad. That's not bad. Maybe we'll make this a little bit larger, right? All right, so now we've got some information. We've got an area at the top, we've got our profile picture, we've got text, and we've got the amount that we get paid, or we probably don't get paid this, but we're gonna run with it, right? I might wanna group some of this stuff. So this might be, I'm gonna just Command and Control G, and this would be payment details. There we go, perfect. So again, we've got a few things going on, but we now might want another section down below that will house the area where we can actually donate to charity. So I'm gonna grab this box in the background, wavy box, and then I'll just put white, and I might want to duplicate that and have another area down at the bottom. So I'm going to hold down my Alt-Option key, simply drag this down, and I might want to change the color. So I'm going to actually start by sampling this color at the top. I may not want this exact color, but at least I have that as a base, right? So I might want to just kind of move this over. Maybe something like this, maybe a little bit darker, just to kind of keep it in the same color scheme, but not the same as the top, because we definitely want that separation. And maybe just to give it a little bit, this isn't looking too bad, but we can also flip it right over here to the right. I can flip horizontally, and now we've got this interesting little area. I'm not sure which looks better. Let me know in the chat, this way or this way. I'm not sure. I'm kind of liking both, but I'm gonna go with this way. Joe fans, Howard letting out a secret. I'm not. Or maybe I am, I don't know. I don't think I am. But it would be cool, going back to what you were talking about, to be able to convert a path back to a shape. It's probably very difficult on the engineering side, but we got some smart people, so you never know. All right, so we've got this area. Now we might not want the whole area to be displayed immediately. So we're gonna use this eventually as a drag area. So to kind of indicate that we can do that, I'm gonna grab my line tool, and you saw me do this yesterday. I'm simply gonna draw out a line just like this. Adriano's saying he'd like the first version. Well, the nice thing about this is we can go in either direction. We can always change it later if we wanted to. I like the way first version, first one left, okay. The other way, okay. Well, I guess we're gonna go the other way. Boop, there we go. Got it, thank you. This is why designing while you have people watching you, hundreds of people watching you, is always good. They can tell you what they prefer. And speaking of that, tomorrow, I'll get into this later, but tomorrow I'm hosting the first Adobe XD masterclass at, I think it's 12:30 or something like that, Pacific time. Check on behance.net/live. All the information will be there. We have a lot of masterclasses tomorrow. It's gonna be fun. So we've got this little line here. Maybe you'll just want to, decrease the opacity a little bit. There we go. And now down below, we might want to start adding some information about, donating to charity. So I'm going to grab my text tool and let's just type out donate to charity with an exclamation mark. We'll make this a little bit smaller. And maybe we want all of this in caps. So I'll just press this uppercase button right over here to the right. Boop. And then change this to white. And maybe I will make this nice and bold, because I definitely want people to kind of pay attention to this section down at the bottom. Beautiful. Now, what other information do we need down here? We need some text to kind of, explain what this is. So I'm going to duplicate this and choose a percentage to donate. And maybe I don't want this all caps, and I don't want this super bold. I'll go for regular possibly and just drop this a little bit. Maybe I'll drop the opacity, and there we go. Now next we might want some sort of a slider to actually allow a user to choose what percentage of their paycheck they want to donate. So I'm gonna grab my line tool one more time and just draw one out just like this, right? I'll change the color to white, and I might want to increase the size quite a bit so it's a nice thick line. Round out the caps. We've done this a few times in the past over these challenges. Frankie's saying, are you also using other fonts besides Poppins? Not today, probably. I want to keep it consistent, but yesterday and the day before, I definitely used different typefaces. So I'm switching up from time to time, but I'm definitely on a Poppins kick. So we've got this line here, and then we might want to grab our ellipse tool, draw out a little slider right over here. There we go. We might want to make the inside the color of the background, and then just add a nice white border. Beautiful. All right. So we've got this slider going on. We also need some text to kind of indicate what percentage people are going to choose. So maybe right above, I'm going to type it, let's start with 0%, right? So there's 0. Now I could go ahead and just drag this over and then drag this over, but nobody's about that life. Let's make it easier, right? So we can, with that one text layer selected, I'm going to press the repeat grid button at the top, boop, and simply drag out 5 more or 4 more. Something like that. 1, 2, so it'd be 2, 4, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then just do this. Look at that. Now I can just jump in here, let's say 2%, 4%, 6%. I'm not very good at math, so I need one more for number 10. Way to go, Howard. Thank you. There we go. And then grab the repeat grid and whoop, there we go. So now we have from 0 to 2% to 10% you can donate to charity. And of course, maybe down below, we need some buttons to actually initiate that process. But before I do that, I want to make sure to group, I can't spell, numbers. I still can't, I'm going to leave it. I don't know. I'm going to select all these elements, group them, and just call this slider. There we go. And now we need some buttons. And we're going to get into components a little bit later on in the challenge. But for now, I'm just going to draw out a rectangle just like that. I'm going to round out the corners quite a bit. This will be the first button to actually make that donation. I'm going to make this white, and then maybe the text in the middle is going to be the color of that background. So I'll just write make donation, change the color of the text in the background just like that. I will make this nice and bold because we do want people to be able to see this and kind of click on it. That looks pretty good. And then, group it, donation, and we might want one more button if someone does not want to make a donation. So I'm going to duplicate this downwards, and maybe I'll just write, whoops, Nah, I'm good, right? Because some people may not want to donate. Regular, and that's completely fine. I'll change this to white. I'll change no fill here and set the border to white. There we go. Beautiful. So we have all of our elements, right? But of course, we might want to do a few things. We might want to, one, move the slider up, move this up a little bit, and move this up a little bit, just to kind of space things out really nicely. But we may not want this whole entire area to be seen immediately. We might want this to be the endpoint, or maybe even we might want, all of this to be moved up even more. So what we can do is let's go ahead and make sure we have all this stuff selected and grouped. So I'm going to select that, and I don't want this, so I'm going to move this down a little bit. And basically all of this stuff here, we want to turn into a group. So I'm going to do Command and Control G on my keyboard, and this will be donate to charity, right? So now we have this in place, everything's looking pretty good. This area at the top's looking a little bit bland, but during your challenges as you're designing this, you're definitely more than welcome to put something up there to make it look a little bit more exciting. Or I can always just move some of this stuff up if I wanted to. Like that, there we go, fancy. All right, so now this area at the bottom, now that we have everything designed, this may be actually the end state, but we want to design the beginning state, the first state, so that we can actually drag this area up. So what we can do is we can duplicate this artboard over to the right. We can either click on it and then Command Control D, or hold down Alt or Option and then drag it over. Now, we can start defining the beginning state. And it sometimes works out if you design backwards. So we've got our end state, and now the beginning state, all we need to do is just drag this down towards the bottom. Now, if you are designing for the iPhone 10 or iPhone, there's a lot of different iPhones with that notch and the notch at the top and the home indicator at the bottom. You want to make sure to leave a little bit of room down there. So I'm going to actually drag this up a touch. And maybe just to kind of give a little bit of a sort of a parallax effect, I'm actually going to dive in here. And I might want to move these buttons down a little bit, move the slider down a touch, and just space these out. And you're going to notice when we do actually activate that drag trigger, things are going to kind of come into play really nicely. And let me show you how that works, right? So we've got both states created. We've got our beginning state and we've got our end state. And Jordy's asking, don't you use the grid? I do when I'm designing for actual clients, but when I'm doing these challenges, I just don't have time to really focus on the grid. But if you do have time, I would definitely focus on using guides, using the grid and that sort of thing. But I don't have much time. So we've got our beginning state, we've got our end state, and now how do we actually wire these two things up? Well, yesterday we covered auto animate, and the process is actually very similar. I'm going to hop into prototype mode right here at the top. I'm going to click on that. And now we want to select the area or the elements that we want a user to be able to drag on. In this case, we have this entire group that we can use, right? So we have that selected. And of course, you could select that individual line at the top, but to give users a little bit more room, I'm actually going to select the entire group. And I'm going to grab the blue handle over to the right and drag that to our second artboard, which is our end state. Once that's done and the connection has been made, over here to the right, we have our tap trigger, but we don't want a tap trigger. You could, of course, if you wanted to. Maybe I'll show you that in a second. But in this case, we're going to focus on drag. And when we select that, the action is automatically defaulted to auto animate because it has to animate between the two different states. And the easing options for drag triggers, you don't really have to worry about. So you can leave that at none. You can put it to in and out. You're really not going to see much of a difference. And of course, the destination, which we probably should have named our artboards, but who has time for that? It's automatically set because we drag that trigger over to the right. So we have our two artboards set up, right? Now we press play at the top. And now all we have to do is go down here to this group and drag up. And you're noticing those layers, because we space them apart in the bottom, in the first state, they're kind of, I don't know how to describe this. It's almost like a parallax effect, but it's not a parallax effect. Let me play that one more time. As I'm dragging up, those layers are kind of coming into play from they're spaced out and then they kind of settle into place, which is really nice. And of course, like I showed you yesterday, you can go back, you can wire this back over here, drag trigger, so that way you can drag it back down, drag it up, and there we go. Now you can also add a tap trigger if you wanted to. If you don't want to tap, if you want to drag, you can also tap on it. So what you can do is you can select this, the first group, and you're going to notice there's a plus button on the, and this is one of the new features that we introduced at Adobe Max. And Frankie's saying, Howard, it'd be awesome if you could use 2 different colors grids. Yeah, that'd be cool. Definitely suggest that on user voice. That'd be a nice addition. I think it's adobeXD.uservoice.com. So we now have a plus button. You can also drag out an additional wire to another artboard. And now we can add a tap trigger in addition to our drag trigger. We're going to have auto animate. In this case, we'll do snap and duration of 0.4 seconds. So we can either drag up, right? Drag down, or we can simply tap on it to kind of bring that up. So you have different options, and now you can have multiple triggers on a single element. You don't have to make different elements anymore. You can all do that. Now, to finish things up, we may also want a drag trigger for the actual slider to choose what percentage we might want. So back in design mode, I'm going to duplicate this artboard one more time, Command and Control D, and I might just want to move this little guy over here to about 10%, because we're going to donate 10% of this crazy amount, $8,450, to charity, right? There we go. And Adriana is saying, I didn't know you can do that. You can. As of Adobe Max, you can now add multiple triggers to a single object, which is super cool. So back into prototype mode, what I want in this case, I want a user to be able to drag on this lovely little blue handle. So I'm going to drag this over to the right. Make sure that drag is selected one more time. Again, it auto defaults to auto animate. And now let's see it from the beginning. So I can drag this up, and now I can drag this handle over to 10%. Now, in the future, possibly, we did introduce states not too long ago, and we're going to be getting into that in a future challenge. But right now, for drag triggers, you do need 2 separate artboards, but the team is working on additional triggers for component states. So there may be a day in the future where you'll be able to create component states with drag triggers. Who knows? But until then, we do need 2 separate artboards for the different states, but you can do that, and I can just dive in here, grab this handle, drag it back over here, just so we can have the full experience. So one more time, we can drag up, we can drag down, we can also tap, just like that. Drag this over to 10%, we can drag it back to 2%, and then drag this down. And of course, as you're designing these challenges, I would really love you to expand on this. What happens when someone clicks on Make Donation? Does it allow you to choose a charity of your choice? What happens if you press on Nah, I'm good, right? So maybe just if you tap on this button, right? Back in a prototype mode, maybe it just hides it. It goes back over here. We've got a tap trigger, auto animate. We'll do snap like that, or maybe it pops up a modal. Maybe it does something, right? Michael's saying state dragging. Yes, please. I think Tim was saying sneaks. Sort of. I think some of the team did confirm that more triggers are coming for states. Possibly this year. You never know. So drag down, drag up. You can click on Now I'm Good, and it kind of flies away and you're good to go. So that's kind of where we're at with the drag trigger. There's a lot you can do, and again, you do need 2 separate artboards. Use auto animate, and I'm really excited to see what all of you do. When you are finished, definitely hop over to Discord, post your stuff in the current challenge section. We've got some really cool things going on here. People planting trees. Look at that. The leaves kind of fell on the trees. See, all of you are much more creative than I am. This is another one. Kind of looks like the one I did yesterday, and that's totally okay. And then one of the book experiences, right? So there's a lot of really nice stuff that you can do as long as you're just willing to experiment and have some fun with it. So that'll just about do it for me for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Definitely stick around. We've got Julia coming up, designing some really cool stuff. I believe she's sitting down with Gus, so you won't want to miss that. And then tomorrow, back to what I was talking about earlier, we've got some master classes. Paul Tranny is hosting a Photoshop masterclass at 9:30 Pacific time. Right after that, Jason Levine is hosting a Premiere masterclass at 10:30, and then at 11:30, I think 11:30, I'll be back with the challenge, and then right after that, I'm hosting an XD masterclass where we're going to be designing some pretty cool stuff and going a little bit deeper than what we've done in these challenges so far. So stick around for that. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining me, and I will see you all tomorrow.